Alright, today we're reviewing the Ibanez 540PIII Genesis. I started off being bewildered by the look of this guitar. Through the course of researching it and talking about it, the shape grew on me. I started to really not mind the look, and now, here we are. I'm gonna share my thoughts and opinions about this guitar, including quality and playability. I'm gonna demonstrate the sound, and I'm even gonna have a full mix demo at the end. And by the way, this video is not sponsored. I'm not sponsored by Ibanez or any of the brands shown in this video. This is my guitar. I happened to sell another guitar I wasn't really playing just a little bit before these were released, and so I picked one up. Alright, let's jump right in. Real briefly, let's go over the specs of this thing. This is a reissue of the 540p. The best I can describe this is like an offset super strat, but flipped the other way around. You can see it has that big lower horn. In terms of specs, it has a Basswood body, 24 frets, not stainless steel, just the typical nickel silver, which is pretty okay, pretty fine. It has the Infinity R rails and the V8 humbucker pickup. You've got Goto tuners on the reverse headstock back there. You can see the headstock doesn't match the color of the body. I think the originals had that too. A Super Wizard neck according to the website, which is 17 millimeters thickness at the first fret and then 19 millimeters thickness at the 12th fret. A Rosewood fretboard with binding and the shark tooth inlays. As you can see, this one is in purple neon, so it's kind of a color shifting dealio where you've got this bright purple and this kind of violet bluish color depending on which angle you hold it. Now let's talk about the playability and the feel of this guitar, and right off the bat I noticed the neck thickness. It's a little thicker than the RG550 Genesis guitars I have. So the neck on this one, this is a Road Flare red one, sorry if the lighting in here makes it look kind of orange. The neck feels slightly thinner. If you play them back to back, you really notice. But if you take time between playing these two, maybe you won't notice so much. And we're talking maybe a millimeter, maybe less thickness difference. And that's just by feel. That being said, this neck basically gives you the same playing experience. It's super thin, super fast. It gives you the Ibanez playing experience you would expect. Maybe there's just a little variation between necks. Maybe it was a different builder who was in charge of making these guitars versus the 550 Genesis. I'm just speculating at this point, but I would have no problem using one neck or the other. Now about this body shape, there's something about it that makes it really nice to play sitting down. It feels like everything is in the right place. The forearm carve, the bridge. It seems really easy on the picking hand, and I can't really put my finger down on exactly what it is. If it's the body shape really, if it's the longer horn being the way it is, the position of the bridge in the guitar. Playing this seated in the classical style like this, it feels pretty good too. Your forearm is starting to get towards the edge of the carve away the contour, but it's not an issue. The position of the output jack too allows you to easily use a straight cable, and you can just put the guitar like this, no problems. And then playing standing up, maybe because of the larger lower horn, but it is just slightly neck heavy. We're not talking SG levels of neck heaviness, but it is just a little neck heavy. And on the topic of the bigger lower horn, you do hit the back of your hand. If you're playing super thumb behind the neck style, you can hit it like that, as you can see. So if this is your playing style and you are a super shredder, I'm not saying I'm a super shredder or virtuoso at all, but if this is you, this might be something to consider. When I'm playing with it seated down like this, it isn't really an issue, surprisingly. And when I'm playing standing up, it's even less of an issue. Surprisingly, it hasn't been a hindrance for me. Also, interestingly, it is pretty easy to hit the 24th fret on this. Despite the lower horn, and despite not having an all-axis neck joint, it doesn't have the tilt joint of the RG550 Genesis. See, they're still square, but on the 550, it's thicker up here on the bass side, and then it tapers down. This, it just has the uniform thickness, but it is pretty easy to get to the 24th fret. I'm surprised. Somehow with this guitar, I wouldn't miss the all-access neck joint. I know that's crazy to say because I love it. Overall, it is fun to play all the way up to the 24th fret on this guitar. Another thing I forgot to mention about playing standing up too is maybe because of the offset shape here, you see this part of the body comes out more. When you're playing with the cable wrap through the strap, it locks in there because of this. I don't have any problems with the typical Super Strat with an RG, but this just feels extra secure. Let's see, in terms of the body itself, it is Basswood. It does feel reasonably light. It is really fun to just pick up and play. It is that perfect weight, not too light, not too heavy. Moving on to the switch and volume potentiometer location, I'd say the volume potentiometer is in the perfect place. I'm not the biggest fan with where the 5-way switch is, though. It's way back here. Over time, I am going to get used to it, but as it is right now, if I need to quickly switch pickups, I do find myself accidentally hitting the fine tuners. It is just a little bit annoying. Let's talk about the quality of this guitar real quick. Starting with the fretboard, the Rosewood, the grain looks tight. They selected a nice dark piece. Looks pretty good. Feels good against the fingers if you're really digging in there with your vibrato or bends. Feels pretty smooth. It is a rather resonant guitar. I'd rank it as great. It has taken several days to acclimate to the temperature and humidity here, which is to be expected. I went ahead and set it up. Got a little unlucky too because after setting it up, it suddenly became much more humid in this area. So I went back and I updated the setup just a little bit. In terms of the electronics, the 5-way switch feels very robust, very strong, very fun to use. Really just clicks every time you switch it. I do have to say that the volume pot, it feels a bit easier to turn than I would like. I like it with just a little bit more friction. It's not super loose, it doesn't accidentally lower itself, but I would prefer if it took slightly more effort to turn it. Everything else is pretty good. The bridge feels like you would expect. Fantastic Ibanez edge bridge. The Godot tuners really work as you'd expect them to. Nothing has come apart, fallen apart, broken yet. Although this is a first review, we'll see down the line if anything malfunctions. Now, in terms of sound, as mentioned before, it has the V8 and Infinity R pickups, and they're all right. My first impression, I wasn't really impressed. I was already strongly considering replacing them out. Personally, I preferred Marzios or bare knuckle pickups. Those are just my go-tos. The past year or two, though, I have been leaving stock pickups in guitars. And to fix them, I'll change the height of the pickup. So that's what I did here. I set up the guitar, got the action, the neck bow, everything the way I like it. And then I adjusted the pickup heights. I raised them just a little bit, and that fixed a lot of the issue I had with the sound. The tones are sounding much more usable to me now. So let's listen to how this sounds. Comment down below if you still think I should replace the pickups and what you would change them with. I'm going to demo each of the 5 pickup selections with a clean tone, a distorted rhythm tone, and a distorted lead tone with some delay. All right, so some thoughts on these tones. I was a little surprised at how much I liked the cleans. I wouldn't say they were the best cleans I've ever heard, but they were fairly decent. Of course, the bridge humbucker, distorted and lead tones, they're workable for me. No surprise there since I do prefer using the bridge pickup for this kind of thing. The other pickup selections with distortion aren't typically what I'd go for, but I might be able to find a use for them down the line. Some further thoughts on the humbucker rails combination, and especially with how this guitar is wired. I do prefer just HH or HSH configurations, and I do mostly use only full bridge or full neck for most things. But with how this is wired, the position 4 is only the inner coil of the rails, and position 2 is only the inner coil of the bridge. You don't get the 2 outer, 2 inner kind of deal. That is too bad for my personal preferences, but if you prefer this, then power to you. And again, not the end of the world, because I do mostly just use the full bridge or full neck. Alright, so overall thoughts. First thought is how this guitar really grew on me, from really hating the look to finding it not so bad, to finding it pretty cool. The combination of that and being a pretty big Ibanez fan, I just ended up having to grab one up. Now the question, is it worth it? If you are an Ibanez fan and you want a P series, possibly. If you are looking for a made in Japan Ibanez with a late 80s, early 90s aesthetic, I'd recommend other options. If you're looking for a made in Japan Ibanez in general, I'd recommend other options. Have to say I couldn't find any used old P series on Reverb for any kind of reasonable price at the time of this recording. So which Genesis, the 540p or the RG550? These guitars do give somewhat different playing experiences, but I've said it before and I will reiterate. The RG550 Genesis is a fantastic value. It is the less expensive of these two guitars. It is still a made in Japan guitar. So you've got that Ibanez made in Japan quality and playability. It plays super fast. You're saving some money. You still get the same kind of aesthetic. If you absolutely have to have this body shape or the H-Rails combination of pickups, then yes, go with the P series. But for all other things, I would have to recommend the RG550 Genesis. Now, for a ridiculous comparison, would I recommend the 540p or the RGA622XH? Both are humbucker rails pickup guitars. Both are kind of crazy in their own way. With the 540p, you've got this body shape. This guitar here, you have 27 frets. Beyond that, there aren't too many similarities. Of course, they're both shreddy super strats, but one of these is a top of the line Prestige. It's an arch top guitar. This one is a Genesis reissue, so different vibes. If I had to pick one just to play and use, I would pick the RGA. But if I was going around playing live, if my guitar would be at any risk of getting damaged or stolen, I'd pick the less expensive guitar here. Although when these are no longer available, I might think twice about that. All right, next thoughts, this or a premium. Now the premiums, they're made in Indonesia, and I don't have anything against made in Indonesian guitars. I think they're pretty good, but it's an interesting comparison, if not apples to oranges. You've got a made in Japan Ibanez guitar, so you're getting that kind of quality, playability, playing experience, but in a different package, versus the premium line where you get more modern specs like stainless steel frets, ebony fretboard, and a different look. You get the fancy body woods like that. So I guess if you want to save a little money and you don't mind the look, then I'd recommend the P series. But if you need the stainless steel frets and you want a more modern looking guitar, something like that, then a premium. Although you would be paying extra money. All right, and then finally this or a Prestige. Well, the Prestige is much more money. You are getting the more modern playability features like the all-access neck joint. You could get different body woods. You'll get different pickups. A bunch of Prestiges have the Air Norton tone zone with the true velvet in the middle sometimes. But you'll get DiMarzios. Some have Fishman Fluence Moderns. This one has the Fusion edges. Some people dislike them. I've had good results with them, but you would be paying more. So unless you absolutely dislike the look of this guitar, or maybe that lower horn would really annoy you over time, then the 540p or any Genesis series in general will be a better value. I would say the Prestiges are better just in terms of overall quality, playability, things like that, but only by a little bit. There's diminishing returns and how much better a guitar is versus price. You could have a perfectly full music career using a Genesis, using a premium, even using a standard line Ibanez. And of course, everyone will always mention buying a used Ibanez Prestige whenever you're talking about purchasing Ibanez guitars. A used Prestige would be a great way to save money and get a fantastic instrument. Of course, when buying a used guitar, always be careful. You might be getting a guitar at a deal, but there's also the possibility that you might be inheriting someone else's problem instrument. Just watch out. But back to this guitar here, overall, I'm pretty happy with this. This ended up being a super fun guitar to just pick up and play all the way from the 1st fret to the 24th fret, fool around. It's all fun and games. Maybe that's what this goofy shape is trying to convey. But what do you think? Is the Ibanez 540p3 Genesis not your cup of tea? Or would you give one a go? Be sure to comment down below what you think. Of course, this is YouTube, so I have to say the YouTube things. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, print out every frame and mail it. Check out the socials, join the Discord. If you're looking for something cool to listen to, stream my music on Spotify and other streaming services. I have some guitar originals and also some video game music covers. And speaking of music, now it's time for the full mix demo. But as always, peace.